I stood by the glass wall of my office, 37 floors above the heartbeat of downtown Chicago. Below me, traffic lights blinked like restless fireflies, and the sound of the city rose in a low, constant hum. My heels clicked softly against the marble as I walked back to my desk, a desk made of walnut and quiet victories. I adjusted the cuff of my cream silk blouse, smoothed a wrinkle that probably no one else would ever notice. That's the thing about women like me. We carry our polish like armor, but we never forget where the scratches came from. My phone buzzed. Just one message. From her. A girl I hadn't heard from in almost 9 years. Hey, are you still in that tiny apartment on 14th? We're coming to the city next weekend. Let's catch up. I laughed, out loud, the kind of laugh that comes with a little sting in the throat. That apartment. The one they all used to mock. The shoebox. The roach box. The starter nightmare. They had no idea. No idea that I didn't just leave that place. I built an empire from it. And now I don't rent a unit in this building. I own the building. But back then, I was just Madison Lee, the girl in the too small apartment with too big dreams. And oh, they loved to laugh at that girl. Pause, soft sigh. Let me take you back to the day everything changed. Back then, my world fit inside 4 cracked walls on 14th Street. My apartment smelled faintly of old pipes and takeout cartons. The heater clanged in the winter like it was coughing its last breath, and the water pressure in the shower had 2 moods, drizzle or betrayal. But it was mine. My first place. And even though the carpet was older than I was, I called it home. Until the night they came over. It was supposed to be a girls' night. Pizza, cheap wine, a movie. But the moment they, Sarah, Emily, and Claire, stepped inside, the laughter started. Wow, Mads, this place is cozy, Sarah smirked, her eyes darting to the peeling paint. Emily giggled. Cozy? It's a shoebox. I think my dorm room freshman year was bigger than this. And Claire? She didn't even try to hide it. She snapped a picture on her phone and whispered, "Gotta show the group chat this." Their voices cut sharper than they knew. I laughed with them, because what else could I do? But my hands trembled as I poured the wine, and I prayed they wouldn't notice the chipped glasses I kept turning so the cracks faced away. That night, when the door closed behind them, the silence in my apartment was louder than their laughter had been. I sat on the floor, knees to my chest, trying to swallow the lump in my throat. And then I saw it. The small brass key hanging from a ribbon on my bulletin board. It was a gift from my grandmother the year before she passed. She had pressed it into my palm and said, "Madison, you're going to unlock doors this family can't even imagine. Keep this close. It's not for where you are, it's for where you're going." At the time, I thought it was just a sweet gesture, a trinket. But sitting there on that fraying carpet, tears drying on my cheeks, I realized she was right. That apartment wasn't my ending. It was the beginning. I whispered it into the empty room like a vow. One day, they won't laugh. One day, they'll see me. And that was the night I stopped waiting for someone else to believe in me. I decided to believe in myself. Voice drops lower, determined. That decision changed everything. After that night, something inside me shifted. The girl who sat crying on the carpet didn't disappear overnight, but she started moving. I worked mornings as a barista at a corner coffee shop, afternoons answering phones for a dentist, and nights waiting tables at O'Malley's Grill. My feet blistered, my back ached, and my tips barely stretched enough to cover rent and ramen. But every break I got, every stolen 15 minutes in the back room with a lukewarm coffee, I studied. Real estate, finance, market trends. I devoured library books until the librarians knew me by name. Most people saw me as just another struggling 20-something. But deep down, I knew I was laying bricks for something bigger. And then, I met her. Her name was Catherine Brooks. She was a regular at the coffee shop, mid-50s, always in sharp suits, with eyes that could slice through lies but softened when she spoke to me. One morning, as I scribbled figures on the back of a receipt, she noticed. "You're either doing math homework," she said, "or you're planning something." I laughed nervously. "Both, I guess." She didn't smile. She leaned in, lowered her voice. "Dreamer's plan. Builders execute. Which one are you? That question followed me for weeks. Catherine became my silent mentor. She started bringing me used copies of real estate journals, leaving them on the counter with her tip. One day, she slid a business card across the table. Call me when you're ready to stop studying and start doing. It took me 3 weeks to find the courage. But when I finally did, she gave me my first chance, shadowing her team as they closed a deal on a small duplex. I wasn't paid. I fetched coffee, made copies, and stayed invisible. But I soaked up everything. I learned how negotiations worked, how contracts breathed, how confidence changed the room. The first time I signed my own lease-to-own deal, a rundown 2-bedroom with sagging floors but good bones, I thought my heart would leap out of my chest. I poured every dollar and every hour into that place, painting, fixing, learning as I went. When I sold it 6 months later for a modest profit, just $8,000, I cried harder than I had the night they mocked my apartment. But this time, they were tears of proof. Proof that I could climb. Little by little, I built a portfolio. Not skyscrapers, not even close. Small homes, duplexes, fixer-uppers. I learned to see value where others only saw decay. And through it all, I kept quiet. Online, I posted pictures of sunsets, coffee cups, maybe the occasional birthday selfie. My family thought I was still figuring it out. My old friends assumed I was living the same small life. I let them. Because sometimes the best revenge is silence. Pause, stronger tone. What they didn't know was that behind the silence, a storm was building. It was a Saturday afternoon when they came. Sarah, Emily, Claire. The same trio who once turned my tiny apartment into a punchline. They had texted me days before, casual as ever. We're in town. We should meet up. I could have ignored them. But instead, I invited them. Come by my office, I wrote. Simple. No explanation. When the elevator doors opened on the 37th floor, I watched them step out, their chatter dying instantly. The reception area glowed with warm light. White orchids stood tall in glass vases. The city skyline stretched behind floor-to-ceiling windows, a backdrop so breathtaking that even seasoned clients paused to admire it. And there I was, waiting. Madison? Emily blinked, as if she couldn't reconcile the woman in front of her with the girl she used to know. Hi, I said, my voice calm even. I gestured to the leather chairs near my desk. Make yourselves comfortable. They sat, wide-eyed, their gazes darting between the modern art on the walls, the walnut desk, the sheer scale of the view. Sarah finally found her voice. So, this is your office? Yes. Claire let out a nervous laugh. Wow. I mean, what do you even do now? For a moment, I let the silence stretch. I wanted them to feel the weight of it, the years they hadn't bothered to ask, the assumptions they'd carried. Then I smiled. Not smug, just certain. I own it. They exchanged glances. Own what? Emily asked. The building, I said, my tone as casual as if I were talking about the weather. This skyscraper. It's mine. The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Sarah's jaw slackened. Claire blinked rapidly, as if she'd misheard. Emily whispered, no way. But I didn't need to convince them. The evidence was everywhere. The receptionist outside addressing me as Ms. Lee, the custom plaque on the wall behind my desk that read Lee Properties, the confidence in my posture. Remember that apartment on 14th Street? I asked softly. The one you all love to make fun of? Their faces flushed. No laughter this time. Only silence. That place, I continued, was my first stepping stone. You mocked it, but it built me. And now, I spread my hand toward the panoramic skyline. This is what it led to. I watched the emotions flicker across their faces. Disbelief, shame, regret. Claire tried to recover first. Mads. We were just kids back then. We didn't mean anything by it. But I remembered. I remembered every giggle, every whisper, every time they'd made me feel small in my own home. I leaned back in my chair, steady, unshaken. Maybe you didn't mean it, but I did. I meant every late night, every sacrifice, every step that brought me here. And now I don't need apologies. I just need you to see me clearly.
They did.
For the first time, they really did. Voice drops lower, cinematic pause. And the power shift was undeniable. They sat frozen in their chairs, the weight of my words pressing down harder than the skyline outside. For years, they thought I was beneath them. Now they were in my office, on my terms. I folded my hands on the desk. So, tell me, why did you really come here? Sarah shifted uncomfortably. Honestly? I wanted to see how you were doing. Maybe reconnect. Emily's eyes darted around the office. And, well, I just lost my job. I thought maybe you could help. Claire, bold as always, leaned forward. Look, Madison, we messed up. But you've clearly made it. Maybe we could be part of it somehow. Invest, partner, something. I let their words sink in. Years ago, I would have begged for their approval. Today, they were the ones asking for mine. I stood, walking slowly to the window, letting the silence stretch as I gathered my thoughts. The city pulsed below us, alive, untamed, a mirror of my own journey. When I turned back, my voice was calm. I don't believe in revenge, but I do believe in growth. So, if you want my help, there will be conditions. Their eyes widened. I started with Sarah. You always played it safe, never chasing what you really wanted. You told me once you wanted to open a bakery, but you laughed it off like it was silly. If I help you, it's only if you take that dream seriously. Write the plan. Do the work. No excuses. Sarah's eyes welled with tears. She nodded quickly. Then Emily. You've spent your whole life doubting yourself, letting people walk over you. If I help you, it's not about money. It's about you standing up for yourself. I'll connect you with opportunities, but only if you fight for them. No more hiding. Emily swallowed hard, her voice barely above a whisper. I can do that. Finally, Claire. I let the pause linger. She had been the cruelest, the one who mocked me most loudly. You, I said evenly, don't need my money, my contacts, or my forgiveness. What you need is humility. You've hurt people, not just me. If you want my respect, you'll have to start making things right with them. And until you do, we're done. The words landed heavy. Claire opened her mouth, then closed it again. For once, she had nothing to say. I returned to my chair, crossing one leg over the other, my posture relaxed but unshakable. This skyscraper isn't just steel and glass, I said. It's proof. Proof that small beginnings don't define us, but choices do. You mocked my past. Now, if you want a future with me in it, earn it. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was transformational. For the first time, they weren't laughing. They were listening. Days passed and change quietly began. Sarah enrolled in a small baking course. Emily took the first steps toward starting her consulting business. Claire, well, she didn't call, but I heard she apologized to someone she had wronged years ago. That was enough. Real growth wasn't instant, but it was real. I walked through my office one morning, sunlight spilling across the polished floors, and paused at my desk. My fingers grazed the small brass key on a chain I kept in a glass case. It had traveled with me through every tiny apartment, every desperate night, every first sale, every failure and triumph. And now it rested here as a reminder. Beginnings may be small, but dreams can reach the clouds. I thought of that girl on the 14th Street carpet, tears drying on her cheeks, hands trembling as she promised herself she'd rise. She had done it, and I had done it, not for revenge, not for recognition, but for the truth I'd carried all along. My worth wasn't dictated by their laughter. I stepped to the window, looking out at the cityscape stretching endlessly below. A soft breeze stirred the curtains, and for a moment, I allowed myself a private smile. Everything I had built, every decision, every late night, every risk, it had led to this. And I wouldn't trade a single moment of the struggle. Because in the end, power isn't measured in wealth or titles. It's measured in the freedom to stand tall in your own life. And as I turned back to my desk, placing my hand over the brass key, I whispered quietly to myself, a voiceover only I could hear. They laughed at the size of my apartment. Now I smile at the size of my skyscraper. And for the first time in years, that smile was mine alone.